Welcome to Only True Stories channel. We hope you will have fun with us. Enjoy watching. When Scarlett Donovan's husband left her and their 3 children without a home, she had only one refuge, her mother's seaside cottage, where an unexpected surprise awaited her. Dear viewers, welcome to our channel. Subscribe to receive more stories every day. The car rocked with each sharp turn on the narrow coastal road. The Donovan family had traveled to a small village by the sea during the summer. There wasn't much in the way of urban infrastructure, but the scenery was stunning. Along the route there were many sand dunes, rocky shores, and saltwater marshes. Scarlett knew the place well, and was surprised to find that the roads had changed little over the years. Her 3 kids were sleeping in the back seat and weren't particularly interested in what was happening outside the window. They were all exhausted from the trip and everything they had been through over the past few months. Scarlett drove the rental car while fighting back the tears. It had been months since she had been able to keep her head straight without the help of medication. She only prayed to God that her children would not notice her desperation. Then Scarlett pulled into a driveway. "Here we go. Benjamin, Archie, and Hazel, this is it," the mother announced, recapturing their attention. Right in front of them was an old, seemingly deserted cottage. It was obvious that nature was in charge of beautifying the area because willow were growing everywhere and the weeds were a little high. Benjamin said, "Mom, it looks like a house from a horror movie." Taking a step back, Hazel reacted, "Oh, that's scary." Scarlett knew that the kids wouldn't be interested in the location right away, but she hoped that they would see how important it was. "It's only temporary, right? We'll figure it out," the mother said as she prepared to close the car, pick up her bags, and walk to the door. Even though they were scared, the kids went ahead and ran around. Saw was counting on her children's curiosity and the chance to go on adventures to keep them busy after all the terrible things they had been through. Scarlett saw the old mailbox on the property. Once she got over the old fence, the sight of it brought back many good and surprising memories from her childhood. Benjamin, the oldest son, was checking out the cottage, which looked like it had been abandoned for a long time. Archie and the youngest, Hazel, were looking for shells and small sea creatures. Archie yelled, "There's a crab." Hazel said, "There's another one right here too." Archie and Hazel looked dazzled, and that gave faith to Scarlett's plans. She thought if Noah hadn't been so careless, we wouldn't be out here in the middle of nowhere and broke, but that's life. She kept her head up and accepted the burden she was carrying because she knew the breakup was necessary and best for the kids. 10 years of marriage had been very intense when Scarlett first met Noah. She was 24. He was a highly ethical and prosperous stockbroker. If necessary, he stayed late at work or used part of the weekend to catch up on trades and reports. Even so, he would always sit next to her in the evening, crack open a beer or a whiskey, and unwind. After a day of stress, it gave her security. It seemed that Noah managed to balance his life. Their dating lasted 2 years, and she was also able to establish herself professionally. They were not rich or millionaires, but had an enviable income in their circle of friends and family. When everything appeared stable, they decided to marry. After the party, Noah honored a promise he had made to his colleagues. They would each receive a small bottle of whiskey as a memento. It was the groom's favorite drink and a sign of his success. This wastefulness started to attract people with a lot of power, but these people had habits that would hurt Noah. He was already dabbling in day trading and placing small bets in the stock market before the birth of their first child, Benjamin. When he lost, he was frustrated, but he always claimed that the amount was insignificant, and when he won, which wasn't often, he told his family and co-workers that he could predict what would happen. By the time his youngest child, Hazel, was born, he was already a high rower in the markets. Scarlett became concerned because he was risking substantial sums of money. She sometimes quarreled with her husband about this, but he said the family's finances were fine because he knew what he was doing and was a responsible man. Scarlett was afraid, but it didn't take away Noah's reason. After all, there was never anything missing for the children and the couple at home. Also, he continued to wake up early every day and work hard. "Trading is just my way to unwind, Scarlett. It's how I stay sharp," he would say. "I may lose a few bucks, but when I get it right, it will be good for everyone." The fact is, if he had known that such a habit would destroy his family, perhaps he would have listened to his wife. Scarlett's mother. Martha knew about Noah's trading and didn't think it could end well. She couldn't fully express her misgivings because, of course, the money was her son-in-law's. But she feared that a disaster was likely and that it would impact both her daughter and her grandchildren. What are you going to do if one day he loses everything? My daughter, are you going to support him with our family money? She once asked Scarlett. He will not lose everything. The trading money is not the money that keeps this family going. Mom, she replied. Martha said that she prayed she was right during one of his market binges. Noah put down a lot of money and hit it big. He took his whole family to Europe with the profits to show everyone that this was just a hobby and that he had everything under control. They were enchanted days for Scarlett, Benjamin, Archie, and Hazel, who were still very young. Scarlett thought that if her husband gave them a surprise like that, it must be true that their finances were secure. The problem was that after Noah's big win, he felt even more sure of himself and began to invest more and more to his trader's logic. This made sense. The more money he put at risk, the larger the reward would be, except that Noah never won again. On the contrary, he lost several times in a row, always thinking he would win the next time. His losses got so bad that he had to borrow a lot of money from his business. He had to fire 8 high-level employees at once and announce an emergency restructuring to avoid publicly admitting that his trading addiction had caused him to lose money he didn't have. Noah had to sell his entire share of the business to his partner so that he could pay his bills at home. He was no longer an owner of the business. After that, he was out on the street. This was a huge blow to both his sense of self-worth and his family's life. Scarlett was in a lot of pain. What would they eat? How would they live? How would they pay for their 3 kids to keep going to school? But the worst was yet to come. A debt collector started calling the family's house to collect on the loans Noah had taken out. When Scarlett went to the grocery store to buy the rest of the month's food, she found that the family's credit cards had been blocked. When she called the bank, the manager told her that her husband had spent the couple's money. He had also taken out loans from the bank over the past few months, and the shortfall was so big that a bailiff would soon be at the family's door if the debt wasn't paid. In other words, what the family owed the bank was close to the value of the house they lived in. So the bank would sell the house to pay off the debt. When Scarlett heard that, she felt stunned, as if the world had stopped around her. She couldn't figure out how her husband could be so careless and self-centered while secretly racking up debts. When she found her husband later, she went from being tired and bored to being furious and out of control. Do you realize how bad what you've done is, Noah? Your hobby cost our family a lot of money. We'll be kicked out of our house with 3 kids to feed, and it's all because of a stupid game. She was so nervous that she fought with her husband while on medicine to calm her down. Noah insisted he was simply experiencing a lot of bad luck, but that was about to change. Scarlett could not believe her ears. What are you thinking about trading again? It is over. Do you understand that if you don't promise me that right away, I'll take the kids and leave? Noah bowed his head in recognition that Scarlett was being serious. He remained silent for a while before promising to change, but he begged his wife to stand by him and not leave. She wanted to sell it before it was auctioned. That way she would get a better value on it, making it possible to fully settle the debt with the bank, but only part of what her husband owed the debt collector, who was calling members of the family every day. Where are we going to live now? She wondered as she looked around the rooms and thought about the children. Scarlett took a deep breath and explained what had happened to her mother. She was mortified and wanted to disappear from the face of the earth. She never imagined it would get this low. She asked to access family money to pay the debt collector. The elderly woman looked coldly at her daughter and asked, "Are you sure about this? My daughter? If I give you that money, I will have nothing left for your future and that of my grandchildren, apart from our old cottage by the sea with that mailbox that you loved. Remember." Scarlett always wanted to be the first one to open it and bring the mail running home. When she was a kid, her mother would sometimes put candy in the box just so Scarlett could discover a surprise inside, but now is not the time to reflect on the past. Scarlett needed to think about her family's future, so she confirmed her intention to use family funds to assist her husband. After all, he was a member of her family as well. Martha was upset, so she thought about her 3 grandchildren before agreeing to give away all of the money she had saved over her life. Noah would have been in trouble with the debt collector, and his grandchildren would have been homeless if it hadn't been for her. Martha's final act of kindness before passing away was the transfer. She fell ill unexpectedly 39 days later and had to be taken to the hospital right away. Scarlett was devastated by her death in the ICU. After the funeral, she sobbed for many hours. Even her children couldn't make her feel better. Scarlett received a letter from her mother via the family attorney a week later. He clarified that the letter contained the remainder of her mother's belongings. Scarlett wasn't sure what this meant. When she opened the envelope, she discovered a handwritten note on a plain piece of paper. Her mother wished her the best and told her that she could always seek refuge in the seaside cottage where she had grown up. May you only receive letters of happiness. She finished the text. The key to the place was in the envelope. Noah stopped trading. He lost friends, and most of his family viewed him with some contempt. Scarlett and the 3 children had to leave the beautiful house they owned to live on rent in a tiny apartment without their previous income. The 3 children had to drop out of private school, but no public school could accept them in the middle of the school year, so the kids would stay all day in the apartment board and picking fights with each other.
From that moment on,
Scarlett would look at her husband more harshly. He needed to be better for his family and find a way to regain his dignity. But the truth was that Noah was depressed after all he had done, and this moved him to rediscover an old best friend. Whiskey. He still got up early every day and went to the street to look for work or odd jobs. His ex-partner was a good man who understood that everyone makes mistakes. He told Noah that if he could show that he had changed for the better, he could work for the company again, not as a partner but as a senior employee. Noah knew that business better than anyone else. This gave Scarlett hope, but the first thing Noah did when he got home was look for a bottle. On days when nothing was going on, he would get drunk and fall asleep on the couch, but he was quickly getting lost when his ex-partner planned a birthday party for his son, who was the same age as Archie. Scarlett saw this as an opportunity for her husband to show that he was ready. While the kids played in the garden, the adults were having lively conversations. Noah's former employees at the company, and the situation was a little embarrassing for him. Noah drank more than he should have. The more drunk he got, the more unpleasant he was with the other children's parents and with his own wife when all around could see that he was already past his limit. Scarlett tried to convince him to withdraw before he ruined his last chance with his ex-partner. Honey, let's go home. You need a shower and a good night's sleep. Come on, I'll help you. But he told Scarlett to shut up and said he wouldn't do what she wanted, which got everyone's attention. You think just because you helped me once you're going to boss me around now? Remember, I'm the one who supported you until yesterday, you ingrate. He said so everyone could hear. She felt humiliated and didn't know where to look. The guests were uncomfortable and Noah's ex-partner looked sad and disappointed in him. That was the biggest embarrassment of Scarlett's life. She was devastated. Back in the small apartment where they lived, she tried to go over her whole life in her head and understand how she had let it get this
far.
Sad and angry, she found no other way out but to separate from her husband. Noah was sinking his life in the mud, and the 3 children did not deserve to sink along with him. When the divorce papers arrived, it was as if Noah had already been waiting for them quite unceremoniously. He signed the paperwork as if he was the victim, escaping from a problematic marriage. All that was left for Scarlett to do was to take the children and go inland to her family's old cottage, and there she would think about how to lead the rest of her life. She was broken and didn't even know if the electricity was still on in the house, but she had no other way out. She told her children that this was a temporary move like a summer vacation, but she had no plan B in mind. Apart from the house, Scarlett had nothing. Her bank account was almost drained. What little she had in the bank would only help her live for a few months. She would have to find a new job and hope for the best. Scarlett walked in through the front door, which creaked open, sending a chill through Benjamin. "This house looks haunted," said the boy. The place was very dark, and Hazel didn't want to go in at all. Scarlett still remembered how certain things worked there and tried to go to the wide window in the room. It was a little stuck, But as soon as she managed to open it, a very strong beam of light entered the house and bathed everything in a golden glow, making the children's mother dive into nostalgia. The room was filled with the sound of breaking glass. "I'm sorry,"
Mom, I didn't mean to.
exclaimed Hazel from the living room. Scarlett and the boys went to see what had happened. A large, framed glass painting on the floor in the living room had shattered. "Look, there's a small door in that wall," said the youngest. Scarlett nearly fell to her knees on the floor when she realized what it was. "It's not a small door, silly. That's a drawer right there," Benjamin, the oldest, said. Scarlett realized why that old painting had always been in the same spot. It concealed a hidden drawer. Scarlett tried every possible way to open it, but realized that a specific key was needed. What happened to the key to the drawer? She was looking out the window when her gaze was drawn to the old mailbox at the front door, which reminded her of the last conversation she had with her mother, during which the old woman mentioned the mailbox in a curious way. But is it possible? She wondered. Scarlett went to the front of the old cottage and checked the mailbox, where she had found sweets hidden by her mother on several occasions. When she opened it, she discovered one more surprise waiting for her, a key that was as old as the house and much heavier than it appeared. She dashed back into the room and inserted the key into the lock. She heard a sharp click as she twisted it, and the drawer slid open. Scarlett thought she would find old family photos, letters between her parents, and maybe some old family records. Instead, she found something that left her speechless. There was an old leather-bound case inside, containing antique coins and a rare watch collection. When Scarlett opened the case, she discovered a note tucked inside with her mother's handwriting for Scarlett, "Forever, my most precious treasure." As she read it, she had the impression that her mother was speaking to her right next to her in the old cottage. Scarlett held the note close to her heart and began to cry. She was too emotional about what it evoked in her and what it meant in her life. At that moment, she started sobbing.
What is it?
"Mom, is everything all right?"
Ask.
She turned and opened her arms to her children, inviting them all to hug her. "It's better than ever, my daughter. I just realized how Grandma always loved us." The next day, Scarlett took all of Martha's old and valuable collections out of the drawer and went to estimate how much they were worth, arriving at a number in excess of $390,000. That meant she was safe and wouldn't need her ex-husband ever again. She looked out the window and saw Benjamin, Archie, and Hazel playing among the wildflowers. The sun was setting, and now everyone had a reason to smile. Dear friends, thank you very much for watching. Leave comments, put like, share with friends, and subscribe to the channel.